So when we're doing the weaved inside technique, I am going to do the same thing I did on the double inside, which is I'm going to start going from the front out the back every time when I'm going through the mesh. And again, the reason why we want to do this has everything to do with how we want the mesh to lay up against the plastic. When I'm talking about going through front to back, this is the front side of the mesh, where the ball sits in the pocket. When I say I'm going back to front, I'm going from the back side of the pocket, where you would scoop ground balls from, to the front. One of the big things you want to remember with this style is I'm not going around the outside of the plastic on the back or in the strut. As you can see, the back side of the plastic here is clean. The inside of the plastic in the middle of the struts is clean. So I'm just going in and out, in and out, in and out, in and out, sideways through the sidewall. This pattern is pretty simple from the fact that I'm not skipping any holes. I'm just doing weaved inside SIs all the way down. Now, depending upon what mesh you're using, you can do this style and not do SIs. When you're doing this style, you can do SIs, you can do ones, you can do twos. A lot of that will depend upon what kind of pocket shape you're going for, what mesh you're using. In this case, this is the new Hammer Omega. So I want this to end up being like a mid-high pocket that's gonna be easy for a defenseman to do a two-handed cradle as they're running up the field. So that's why we picked this pattern. So I'm about to go through how you string the weaved inside pattern. Something to notice here and something to remember, especially because this is a very simple pattern itself. I'm going down 2 holes, back up 1. Down 2 holes, back up 1, as far as the holes in the side wall are concerned. So just to give you an idea of how to do this type of pattern, I'm gonna do a few holes down the sidewall with no mesh at all, just so you can see how the string interacts without the mesh being in the way. So, as I said before, we wanna go down 2 holes and back up 1 each time. So I'm always working, because this is an inside technique, I'm always starting to go inside out and then coming back outside in. So to start, I'm gonna go down 2 holes, going inside out this way, back up 1 hole, outside in. Down 2, so 1, 2, pull it tight, back up 1. Down 2, back up 1. So I'm gonna go 2 more from this view. Down 2 holes, tight. Back up 1. Down 2 holes. Back up 1. So I'm keeping it very tight throughout. As you can see on this side, it's very, very tight. The string itself, I'm pulling the string as tight as I possibly can. On this side, it's tight as well and there's no mesh. Now I'm gonna undo that and then I'm gonna show you how to do it going through the mesh. For anyone that doesn't know what SI means, it means special interlock, where we're going through each hole of mesh twice. I'm gonna be using inside weave SIs all the way down. I've tied off the top of my sidewall here. I'm gonna go front to back through the mesh. I'm going down 2 holes, back up 1. I'm gonna pull that as tight as I can. And then I'm gonna go through the mesh again, back to front. As I had mentioned, I'm doing inside weaved SIs all the way down. So for every single one of these holes in the mesh, it's front to back, down 2 holes, back up 1. quick shout out to my buddy Dave, Smash Time Strings. He's one of the guys that helped start this. He is a master of it. Thank you for teaching me. So I went down 2, back up 1, back to front. Down 1 hole of mesh, front to back. Down 2 holes, back up 1. Back to front. So now I'm going to spin the head around so you can see it, how it works going through the mesh from a different angle. Front to back. Down 2 holes. Back up 1. Back to front. Each time I'm doing one of these, I'm making sure the mesh, just pulling on the mesh just a little bit, make sure it's being pulled as far towards the back of the head as possible and it's sitting in the same way that it is along this sidewall. Going through front to back, through the next hole of mesh, down 2 holes, back up 1. Sit right, tighten. Back to front. The next hole of mesh, down 2, up 1, front to back through the mesh, down 2 holes, going from the inside out, back up 1, outside in. Make sure the mesh is sitting well. Tighten, back to front through that same hole. Down 1 hole of mesh, inside out, like down 2 holes in the sidewall, inside out. Back up 1, outside in. Back to front. Only a couple more here. Down through the next front to back, through the next hole of mesh. Inside out. Going down 2 holes. Down 2, 1, 2. Inside out, up 1, outside in. Make sure the mesh sits right. Tighten it up. Back to front. Just 1 more here, so this is going to be the last hole of mesh that we finish up with on this pattern. Going front to back, down 2 holes, inside out, up 1, outside in. Just like before, pull it tight, make sure the mesh is sitting well and flat. And I'm going to finish off this hole going back to front again. And then I'm going to finish off this sidewall, going through the last hole in the sidewall and tying it off. I'm going to put a bottom string in here. I'm going to break in the pocket, and then I'm going to show you what it looks like.